Welcome to this Perceptive Readers podcast. Hi, I'm James Lynch. Welcome to the Perceptive Readers, everyone, and this is a Sunday thought that I wanted to share with you this week, and it happens to pertain to Solomon, King Solomon. Now, a lot of you who are into reading and gaining a bunch of knowledge about persons like Solomon, and you could name many poets yourself, and also other sages, if you will, that you can just, mention from time to time, different ones' names, their abilities, and things that they said and things that they did. And I know Solomon, even though you may not, some of you mention him as much, I know you have some respect for the knowledge that the man had, even if there is a disagreement of exactly where that knowledge and wisdom came from. You see, the knowledge and wisdom that Solomon had, it was a gift from God. And once he poured his Holy Spirit on him in that way, of course, Solomon was able to go about life and find out a lot of things on his own. He got to experience things to the max and to the full. And, he wrote down his different sayings and wisdom in the book of Proverbs and also Ecclesiastes, you see. Some very applicable principles throughout the whole book. Those two books right there. Now, what I want to talk to you about is not focusing in on his wisdom and his smarts, but really the benefit that came from his God-given wisdom and smarts, you see. Just to give you a little bit of a background, see, who was King Solomon's father? Well, it was actually King David. And a lot of persons know about King David and respect him. And the thing about it is, though, King David had, as God said, or called him, a man who was agreeable to his heart. But guess what? King David, in order, to take, the kingdom that God had anointed him for, it was coming from, a bad king before him. And so, that bad king just wasn't going to give it up without a fight, as they said. So, as David was patiently, waiting to, be anointed where he was anointed, but then actually given that kingdom, there was a lot of trials. He was on the run. And then even after he had to, the kingdom was given to him, then there were also battles here and there. And so some would look at David as a man of war, even though the battles that he was fighting, again, some people would rightfully say, well, he was protecting God's land, his throne, you see. And so they were, holy wars, and he had God's backing at times, to defend himself in that way, and to also go on an offense when necessary. But there was a lot of more than bickering and trouble going on in that kingdom of David, you see. However, keep in mind that no matter what mode David was in as a warrior or as a king or even as a poet, harp player or what have you, the whole man, see, he was not the sum of his parts. every bit of him made up that whole man, and that whole man was agreeable to the true God's heart, even with all, the mistakes that he made at times. And so his heart was in the right place. Now, with that being said, David had great appreciation and gratitude for the true God. And he wanted to do wonderful things for the true God to show his appreciation for him, even to make him a house, a huge temple that would be unlike anything on the face of this earth. That's how big his heart was towards God. And guess what? He told God that's what he wanted to do. God knew he wanted to do it. But you know what God told him? And see, and this is very important. And remember, we're going to take this over to Solomon and his wisdom and everything. That when David wanted to build God a house here on earth, this magnificent tent, I just want to use that because it talks about it in Revelation, but really, it's an immaculate house. And even, sometimes I look at those pictures that I even share from time to time on my networks of these, billionaire, homes and the architecture. And I mean, just marvelous artwork. I mean, the creativity in this and the way that these persons' minds think, these architects, and the way that they put it all together. I mean, I just love it. I just say, man, this is just art. I mean, just art. But all the same, with the technology and the know-how and everything of that day, David was still going to make God, the true God's house, the best and most magnificent thing on the face of this earth. That's what he wanted. Well, God knew that, and God appreciated it. But guess what God had told him? He said, you do have too much bloodshed on your hands. So see, because remember, there was a part of David that he was a manly person of war. He had to fight those battles for different reasons. And there's some other reasons behind that too, as far as why God said that, he had, blood on his hands, you see. So here's the thing. God still told him, you won't build my house, but your son will. And I will bless your son. You see, and here's the thing. King David's reign was one of, a lot of bickering, battles, war, and things of that nature. And of course, they had still in between times those good and wonderful festivals and things of that nature. So you could see that people were still, enjoying themselves. But yeah, it was like they were always on the defense almost as well too at times. But here is the thing. When Solomon was born, see, not only did Solomon show the right attitude as being, I'm talking about this is now, him being anointed as king and everything, to show the right attitude, but he just said, look, just give me understanding to be able to lead your people, to take care of your people. And because God had gave him the choice, he could either have riches, you see, if he wanted to, he could do anything. He could ask God for anything, but this is what he asked for. He ended up asking just for wisdom to take care of God's people. And so what ended up happening is, God gave him all of that, that and riches and more. And the thing that I want to share with you, what Solomon's reign helps show us in the Bible is what you hear me talk about so much when I say living forever. How will it be? What will the earth be like? Solomon's reign shows that people will be happy, people will be secure, people will be prosperous. Seriously. That's what that wisdom and knowledge of God does for people. And I just want to tell you, when you get a chance, read 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 20. And in verse 20, it says, Judah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. And then you find out in verse 21, the borders that even Solomon's kingdom had. You know, they were actually, a boundary was Egypt. Now, many of you know about Egypt. And, you know, I got to make this joke because some of you are talking all the time about, you know, this knowledge in Egypt and this. I tell you what, I bet you they picked up a lot still from Solomon, though. Go find that in history books. No, but all the same, that's just a side thought. But also in 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 25, and notice this, and Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. And so again, I wanted to share this with you because Solomon's reign, see, it was peace. See, David was a man of war. You see, had blood on his hands, as God said. But he wanted Solomon not to have any wars at all, because what does that tell you? He wanted everybody to see, here is a peaceful man, a peaceful king. Hasn't hurt a fly. So you will, so to use that expression there. And he also has my God-given wisdom upon him. So there will be peace. The land will be prosperous and you will be in security. See, talk about, sometimes people say, said that, it's the way, the perception and other words, to describe, does all the right parts or objects fit into what a perfect kingdom looks like, what a perfect world looks like. Well, guess what? What God did with King Solomon reign, he showed that. And see, and in the history of what's written in the good book, it says the people were happy. They were merrymaking. They were secure. They felt pretty good in their quality of life. And like many of the things that's written in the Bible, for our encouragement and hope, God is saying when he, once again, wants his, house to be built again, because he stays in heaven, but a representation or what have you, a wonderful place or whatever, the tent to be with mankind again, we know it's going to be peace, peace on the earth, peace and security with talking with one another and getting along. And on top of that, just think, all of this will last forever and ever and ever, where no one will die at all. And the ones who have died, in ignorance and, and other things that God just knows about, because remember, he's the judge, he'll be bringing many of those back to be upon this peaceful, wonderful planet of ours. So I just wanted to share that with you as a Sunday thought. And you just have a wonderful day and keep doing the best that you can. Take care. You have just listened to the Perceptive Readers podcast. Remember, until next time, if you read something that encourages you to improve or enhance your life for the better, it becomes your reality.